the Son of Man will come. That was a reality and a belief that the early Christians, the very earliest Christians, genuinely held on to. In fact, they believed that, in fact, the Messiah would come at the very next celebration of the Paschal Mystery, the very next Passover, that Jesus would return. That next Passover came, and the one after that came, and the one after that came. And you hear in the writings of St. Paul, not in today's writing, but in others, this expectation. In Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, written only about 13 years after Jesus died and rose, there's this sense of, get ready. He is coming. This immediate expectation. And what we see happening in the early church is that when, in fact, Jesus didn't return as immediately as they expected, they began to celebrate the Paschal Mystery. The Paschal Mystery is the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Not just on the annual celebration of Passover, but on a regular celebration of the day of the week that we call Sunday. It became a small experience of the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. So that in the Eucharist, they could share a coming of Jesus. They could share a return of Jesus. They could once again share in this event, and they could retell the story of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. I say retell the story, not to trivialize the gospel by any means, but you got to remember, we're talking about 2,000 years ago. We're talking about the early Christians, almost universally, who were illiterate. And so the way they shared the message of Jesus was twofold, actually three. First was in telling the stories, an oral recitation of what did Jesus say? What did Jesus do? How is this a part of the ways in which you and I try to live? Two, they lived it. They experienced it in the lived example of the people around them. And three, they developed art. They drew pictures in the catacombs. Since until the 4th century, Christianity was illegal, they couldn't put up churches or public signs, but instead they used what images they could, what paintings they could, what songs they could, most of it the Psalms, that expressed what they believed and shared what they believed with others. Why am I saying all of this? Well, you know, in these days we've been celebrating some pretty important feasts. This past week we had the Feast of St. Dominic, the founder of the Dominican community, both men and women. Yesterday, or this morning, we had the Feast of St. Lawrence, one of the early deacons of the church. Both of these people, in the telling of the stories, became vibrant examples of what it looks like when you live it. The other day on Friday, we had the Feast of St. Teresa Benedicta. She's the Carmelite sister that's in our back window over there. A woman of this last century who died in the concentration camps and who was a living example of what the gospel looks like. You and I are human beings. Yes, we have brains, and we need ideas, and we need to use them. But what validates our ideas is when we see them expressed in art, in music, and in real life. I don't know if you ever take the time to study the lyrics of the songs that we sing at Mass. Yeah? Do you actually read them? To read them is a great catechetical moment, because they express what we believe, and they call us to do it. Rain down. It's not just talking about rain out in the fields. It genuinely is talking about the coming down upon us of the grace of our God, and what that means for us, what that looks like for us. It is an expression of what we believe, and it challenges us to go from belief into action. These windows, they're not just pretty glass. They're a reminder to us that for 2,000 years, men and women around the globe, from Africa, from Korea, from the Middle East, from Italy, from England, from Scotland, from Spain, have all been living the gospel, and in very unique and different ways have achieved holiness. And what it says to us is if they can do it, so can we. All of these things are not accidents. They're intentionally given to us so that when you and I come together to prepare for the coming of the Lord, so that when the Lord comes and finds us ready, it's because art, music, friends, family, sacrament have all colluded, all collaborated, all come together in such a way that you and I are doing it. We're ready because we've seen it, we've tasted it, we've touched it, and we've come to the realization that we can do it. And we support each other in living the gospel. If that's not the new evangelization, I don't know what is. And if you want a more clear example of it, then just turn on the news and watch Pope Francis, a man who has changed the face of the church. Recently, at a gathering of the superiors of religious in the United States, Archbishop Vigano, who is the Apostolic Nuncio in Washington, said that on the day that Francis was elected, the church changed. It's very true. For some people, they're probably not very happy about that. And for others, they're celebrating. For almost 2 million of them, down in Brazil recently, it was a very positive experience. But either way, it's caused us to talk about it. It's caused us to discuss it. It's challenged the way we think. And that is a good thing. Because reflection on our faith causes us to grow. Today, may we come to the realization in a deeper way to make ourselves ready, for the Lord is coming. The Lord will come. The Lord has come and is present among us.